Hello and welcome everyone. This is Blackadder at Blackadder's Place. Welcome you to today's stream, as we are going to be right now starting with, well, another live match from the Nations Cup 2023 Qualification Round 1. And it's gonna be between Czech Republic B, Wertical, Simonz, Christheco and Krvemlik. So seems like pretty much the top team from what I have seen on the lineup. And we are going to be playing against Germany I with Ombowombo, Reto, MAYhem and Lord Turfux. Can be saying that I'll be recognizing any of the names here on the German team, but yeah, well, considering how many players of diverse kind of like corners of the community we are gonna be having in the tournament, that's not any kind of surprise really too much. No, and we're gonna be starting on Two Rivers, as you can see. So that's gonna be the map that nobody banned, nobody picked. Gonna be looking at the draft in a moment as well. Maybe first on the maps, potentially on the Civilisations later. Depends, of course, how much time we're gonna be having here at the beginning to potentially cover that piece of the game. No, and we're gonna be therefore having not entirely Xbox. Krvemlik is not gonna be playing on any controller, not really, but nonetheless, he's going to be having the Game Pass version of the game. It looks like, oh, not sure if it's gonna be Game Pass version or maybe it's a straight one. He's playing for a long time, so not sure if he's having like a continuous Game Pass or not. But let's therefore have a look around here on the Civilisations a bit, as Reto for the Germans is gonna be starting with the Japanese. He's gonna be on the flank as well. So yeah, it's gonna be somewhat of a reasonable position for him. He's playing against Simonz with the Malay. So Japanese and Malay, that's a fairly common actually matchup. Not really anything too bad about that. As you can see here in the pocket for the Czechs, that's gonna be Christheco playing with the Poles. Huh. No, wouldn't be expecting necessarily Polish on this map. But I guess the kind of like idea is gonna be clear, right? It's gonna be some actually spam of knights into Castle Age. Now, the next pocket is gonna be Wertical. He's gonna be playing with Hindustani. That's, no, well, just a great pocket civilization everywhere where you want to be going for cavalry, of course. No, and the last player on the team is gonna be Krvemlik, and he's gonna be playing with the Bohemians. No. That's also not entirely something I would be expecting, considering the map. Okay. Oh. Wow. I was going to say that maybe he's actually gonna be already heading back, and therefore Krvemlik is gonna be having a bit of a serious problem in there. But in the end, no. Bit lucky, but he managed to actually make it work anyway. And Krvemlik in general should be the highest rated player in the game, somewhere like 1700 1v1. The rest are gonna be approximately 1500, practically all of them. So theoretically, this should be a fairly equal matchup. So even though Czech Republic B is seeded as kind of like the favorites, no. Based on the lineups, I wouldn't be necessarily thinking that it's gonna be 100% the case, but I don't know the Germans, so I have no idea how well they're gonna be playing together. But nonetheless, really the Civilisations are not entirely from the Czechs to be looking like focusing on the water too much. I mean, like, you can be playing water effectively with everything in the feudal age. So really there are very little differences in there, but yeah, no, nonetheless, nothing really too special, besides, of course, the Malay and the Japanese through bottom. No, and for the other team, for the Germans, they're gonna be having Ombowombo playing with Persians. That's much more like it for a bit of a hybrid map. And then the other pocket will be Lord Turfux with Malians. Somewhat okay as well for the water. Classic nomad civilization. Discount on the wood, everything good. And the last civilization is going to be MAYhem, and that's going to be a Dravidians. And you can definitely tell that the Germans are a whole lot more going for the water setup here. Like, basically they're having all 4 civilizations ready for that. No, I'm really looking forward if it's going to be paying off for them or not. I mean, like, Dravidians are actually used fairly commonly lately, as they tend to be, no, kind of like something that you have to be drafting. Considering how many civilizations, for example, in the show matches we have needed to draft in the best of 5s, so they tended to be one of the more common picks. And frankly, even actually in 1v1s, we actually don't see them all that rarely lately. They do have some interesting bonuses, the extra wood at the start. Not entirely too terrible. Can be doing something with that, with some archers in the early game. But well, as you can see, bit of a actually interesting start here for the Czechs. Not entirely fun one for MAYhem, who has to be waiting for the water a lot longer. So therefore his advance is going to be quite a bit challenged here. Or some kind of like good timing with the advance rather, to be precise. No, some first few villages are also gonna be on the way, so I guess before we actually gonna be reaching in, I can see right now, Christheco is gonna be having 19 villages because he's not, he's not going for the water at all, because for example here, both of the pockets for the Germans are. So Chris is gonna be playing straight actually into the castle, or, no, so far he's not moving for anything like a trash. So that would have been like an other variant, maybe trying to trash the Japanese or whatnot. Barracks coming up, so he's gonna be scouting. So he's playing basically straight land. Now that's unusual. Very unusual. He's not gonna be trying to get a boost from the water, because the amount of fish here on Two Rivers is reasonably high. So that's... no. Even a few questions here and there to me. So far for the time being, but we'll see. Maybe it's gonna be working out somehow. With apparently Ombowombo probably getting ready also for a few scouts here himself, considering the barracks. No, and... what was that graphical effect in there? What the hell? Did you see that as well? Some kind of like splash or whatever. Not sure. But whatever the case, you can see the Dravidian on the flank. He's gonna be trying to also supply something potential on the land here, because they're gonna be maybe realizing based on the civs that this could be played slightly differently. But so far, to be honest, doesn't necessarily seem that way. But at gold position, no, not liking it too much. Considering possibility of some galleys, then obviously this is gonna be fully blocked. Next gold mine is, no, luckily okay, so we can potentially switch there. So that opens a bit of a question, if maybe it was even worthwhile to start here. Probably would have been just better to go there all the way to the top. Hopefully he did scout that. Yeah, he did. What the hell? That's actually on advanced, the change of the graphics. Is that something new they have added? No, that has to be. I haven't even... I mean, like, I was streaming on Tuesday, which was after the patch already, if I'm not mistaken, for the Xbox. No, yeah, it definitely was. And I didn't actually, don't remember something like that, so I'm wondering what the hell is going on here. Was some kind of like weird server-side patch or whatever, which is something that actually happens in Age of Empires 4, but I'm not sure if AoE2 is having such a thing as well. Possible to it even, but well, it's kinda just confusing. Would be imagining that it's something with the Xbox, so that it's gonna be a bit like noobified and casualized, let's say, because obviously that's kind of like the experience that people are gonna be looking for. So more visual cues are probably gonna be useful for them. But yeah, just a bit of a strangeness in there going on, as otherwise you don't really have too much on activity yet. Besides, apparently a War Dead, and even second one, so apparently Lord Turfux and MAYhem are going to be having quite a good time here so far. And yeah, this is gonna be costing actually quite a lot of idle time for Krvemlik. So it seems like he slightly underestimated what's going to happen here. And basically that means that the Germans seem to be fairly decently prepared for the match. So I guess some kind of practice definitely has happened here. Okay, going to be there for having some 5 ships, so it's gonna be some slight advantage for Krvemlik at the very start, but for just a moment, because of course, once you get into like the classic 5-6 galleys for Turfux, then that's gonna be already enough to be able to successfully hit and run the enemy 5 ships. You can see now it's exactly going on here, and of course the pathfinding also getting screwy for the 5 ships as usual. No, and on the water on the bottom, it seems like that maybe you don't really have that much of a problem here yet for either side. Seems like it maybe the Bohemians are going to be, as in the Czechs, are going to be probably slightly better off. Yeah, they seem to be at this point having a bit more boats, but there is more waiting still for Reto here to the south, whereas on the land we are going to be almost finished. There's a dead scout for Christheco, and yeah, well, shouldn't be entirely too hard right now to finish with this. You can say it about now. Another about 2 scouts and 1 for green. So it seems like that actually the early raiding for purple didn't entirely pay off just yet. Does not really seem that way. Looking at the villages, for example, it seems to be fairly equal between the teams. Maybe slightly better for the Czechs, but not entirely too much. Don't think it's gonna be anything too like overly important so far. Looks like he's trying to... oh, I was going to say he's trying to actually lure them in, but not sure if that was actually a bit of a purposeful move in there by Christheco. Maybe it wasn't entirely all that fully, not sure. But well, whatever the case, we are going to be at this point also having in a moment look, or having to have a look to the right side, but currently we do have scouties without upgrades. Logically it's quite a bit early, just the Persian. Very quickly though, already having the first defense, it's nice. with the first castle age apparently coming in from Lord Turfux for Germany I and Hey Andre. There as well, all the way to the other side. No, that's exactly Turfus. And actually, since he's gonna be combining this with pretty good castle age, no, feels to me that Krvemlik is gonna be having more actual trouble here than he was bargaining for. You can see he's going for quite a bit of a heavy feudal age with all the 5 ships and even the demo. Oh, the demo is a bit kinda surplus against, of course, such a high amount of galleys, but nonetheless, some kind of idea, I guess, is there. The teams around 120C can actually provide good games. Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, like, if you compare it with the AO Olympics like 2.5 years ago, right? Then you can absolutely clearly see the move in the general like population quality. So it's like absolutely evident how the level has grown. As basically, if you're gonna be thinking those 3 years back, somebody who was like 1,000 rating was like without any kind of like bad meaning or anything, like just legit noob. He just like barely knew how to play the game. But today, if you're gonna be looking at a player at 1,000, then basically he's already gonna be having the build orders down. He's gonna be already knowing what to do and how. And it's all about just kinda like not having the good execution and experience yet. But you can absolutely clearly see the differences and the improvement in the overall level on the similar ratings of the game. Because currently in the game that we have now, basically anybody above 1500 is already actually fairly solidly able to play, even in, for example, a bit high level games, which absolutely wasn't the case those few years back. Those players will be just getting absolutely manhandled in such situations, but today they can already at least basically hold their own. Okay, but we're gonna be already getting through here. So far, really, the Germans are seeming to be having quite a bit more of the game. And while on the scoreboard it doesn't seem to be reflected yet, they definitely are the more active ones and kind of like successfully active ones as well. Killing villages from to the top side Krvemlik, right now also from Simonz. What the hell is this? Is that some kind of stupid mod I have to be disabling? Because it's completely confusing me. These confetti. Because I didn't have it on Tuesday, and I didn't change anything. So this is something with the game. Just like out of nowhere. Jesus Christ, what the hell is going on? But yeah, I'm gonna be having to look into mods or whatever. The only mod I have is Pussywood. I don't have anything like... anything else. So unless something got basically introduced by the developers on their own, somehow yesterday, then I have no idea what is actually coming up. Yeah, so that's probably gonna be what you're saying, that the event mods are gonna be probably somehow enabled automatically. This seems like it might be something from the Chinese New Year, maybe. Not sure. But whatever the case, he seemed to be at this point having at least a successful defense for the Czechs. As all the way to the top, we are not able to break through. This is a bit of a shame for MAYhem. You can see gold at least protected, but again, thinking should have been going for this gold first and foremost, even a second and third tower. No, that's why the archers gonna be getting in. That's of course the reason. But he should be maybe still trying to find a different opportunity, like there is a path here, right? Having to even delete the house for a bit better efficiency, definitely prudent and good idea. Whereas on land we are going to be already having a good number of camels from Wertical for the Hindustani. But maybe it could be interesting idea to be getting a few demo ships from Turfux. Just to be able to try and explode them here. Can see right about now upgrade for Simonz all the way to the bottom, also into war galleys. And then we're gonna be getting castle ages for actually plenty players for Reto, MAYhem and also Ombowombo, so basically the 3 Germans. Otherwise only Krvemlik is gonna be staying in feudal age for the Czechs. But the confusing part is that really I never touched the mods. So the events basically what they kind of like enable, then that's what they enable. But this is more confusing in the fact that really, on Tuesday we were actually playing and we didn't have anything like that, and I haven't even launched the game since then. So this is the first launch of the game since then, and suddenly there's this nonsense. So, I mean, like, how can they break actually the game so commonly and in such a random stupid ways? Like the broken recorded games, the broken mods in the last event. Like, seriously, you just have to be... You don't want to edit spawn anymore, you just do know they do not test anything basic even. And it's kind of like awful that actually somebody is getting paid for that. That's kind of like the worst part of it all. It would be much better if they should be basically forced to donate the pay to the community or some such to a tournament. Or something along those lines. That would be motivating them to actually do quality work. But yeah, well, if they are not getting actually penalized for doing a shoppy work, then well, it's gonna be, of course, still continuing. But nonetheless, seems like a Turfux, basically according to expectations, is at this point going to be probably getting quite a bit of an easy victory here. At this point, he has already gotten the victory, I guess. Whereas otherwise, we do have actually a decent amount of purple all around from Christheco. Trying to do what he can with the Polish. Did he get Šlechta? No, he didn't. He probably doesn't have a castle yet, I imagine. Not gonna be anything important here. Water here to the bottom seems to be won by Simonz. So that's gonna be one for the Czechs. Second is gonna be active for the Germans. Remember when you were new and suddenly all your berries were pink? Yeah, that was that kind of like a Japanese mod, right? And they were, I don't know at this point how it's called. Sakuras, yes. They basically changed into Sakuras or whatnot. I remember that one. I don't think I had it. Well, as I said, I don't activate really any mods, I just use Pussy Wood and that's it. That's all I need. Sometimes forget about it when there's a new patch, since it of course resets every single time. But that's kind of like the max that I'm doing here, because otherwise everything else is working fine, so I don't see any kind of reason to be changing anything important, as that's gonna be only a dead knight. He did take a villager down here, there's a dead body in there, but it seems like it wasn't anything all that lasting just yet, as we seem to be a bit actually focusing next to MAYhem to kind of see if they can be maybe moving forward with Turfux, also on the land, as it looks like actually the water is not gonna be that clear, as Krvemlik is having a lot of fight in him still, being relatively freshly into Castle Age, and therefore trying to get even the 5 ships. Currently on the villages, for example, the best economy is looking like Lord Turfux at 76, 74 currently for Christheco, and in general 74 Simonz, 67 for Reto, then 52, 56, 66, 54, slightly better for the Czechs, about like maybe 15 villages more for the Czechs so far than for the Germans, but it's not entirely that much of a decisive situation yet, and imagine the demo ship here. I really do wonder why they don't have that, because this is an obvious play on Two Rivers. I'm a bit disappointed by that, but there's not gonna be anything important here. So let's have a look all the way to the bottom, where apparently Reto is coming back to possibly help his teammate Ombowombo, as green is at about 21 units, Christheco at 18, so it shouldn't be too difficult actually for him to defend on his own. I don't think that Reto is all that much needed here currently. Can see even a few camels coming up also from Wertical, who's gonna be playing with about 32 units, that's a lot though. Can see he's gonna be having rather right now the bigger army here on the other flank of the green army rather, and base rather. As through the mid, that's gonna be maybe a bit of a surprise attack against Wertical, and unfortunately he's having actually fairly open gold mine here. That's gonna suck. The wood line is also not the greatest, but that's kinda how it goes on Two Rivers. Shouldn't be entirely too much of a surprise, as on the water, well, we seem to be at this point that maybe looked like actually a demo ship in there for a moment, but looks to me that Krvemlik is at this point gonna be probably the one to take the water, but that's also gonna be because Germans seem to be giving up on it a bit. Lord Turfux is focusing maybe a bit more on the land by now. I can see having the stables ready here. Is he still making something new? No, he's not. Just kinda like one 5 ship here. So it's not entirely too serious, and of course there is the raiding, as exactly expected on the gold, but like, I don't know, 5 villages I can see dead here, maybe something more in there, but all the way into the mid, this is not a great position actually for Wertical to be in, because he's gonna be sandwiched between double archers, and we seem to be having some lag. That's gonna be in-game lag, not mine. That seems to be the kind of the classic that is transposed through the recording or through the spectating, so they're probably gonna be having that themselves. But yeah, well, that was something that was somewhat expected in the 4v4s, because we haven't had such a tournament in a long time, and therefore, well, with such a large player base, it's gonna be very likely that some people are going to be having a bit weaker computers on that, even without potentially streaming. All the way here to the south, it looks to me we did have a bit of a small engagement. There are some dead bodies peppered around. the blue farms, as Reto is gonna be at 59 villages, and right now the villages are getting a lot more serious in favor of Czechs. Seems like that the raiding here is actually paying off, and the activity on the land. I'm also kinda liking here the whole lot of red with even, oh well, no, that's the demo ship finally, and waiting for some potential archers coming back maybe. But as this is going on, we also should be looking back into the yellow base. Oh, that's a brave villager. Definitely deserves a Medal of Honor, but nonetheless, better to be actually running away. I kinda switched, right, with that guy. No, so he was actually lucky to be called off the shift. But currently that's actually a fairly solid army. 37 archers, 2 and 1 for the Dravidian. Okay, Mangonel coming from the top. It's gonna be... that's a nasty choke point, very dangerous one, and that's the hit. One more, it's gonna be coming as well. He tried to split, unfortunately he split exactly into that. It was actually well targeted by Wertical. That's what I mention very often, that even experts do not do that. That people actually do not anticipate, for some reason, the splits, and they basically usually shoot into the middle of the enemy armies, instead of trying to basically, in these positions, shoot with the Mangonel into the flank. Because if you're gonna be hitting the flank, usually that's the point where the split is gonna be heading. So you're gonna be still hitting. And that's something that even experts do not do. I don't know why, because it seems obvious play by me, and from my point of view, but nonetheless, you don't really see it very commonly, almost like never. So I'm really thinking that still got a lot more. Okay, okay, there we... Come on, this one definitely would have hit. If he was paying a bit more attention here, the second would have 100% hit, and that's gonna be still a new one. But well noticed, yeah, this is definitely treacherous at this point, water here. For MAYhem, but he's gonna survive. Okay, is he? Oh no. Okay, so there we go. No, tough luck. So that's gonna be the whole army right about now for Greygon. Even though he's still having 36 actually new ones in his base. So it's not like complete disaster, but still. Losing half of the army basically for... No, not like 1, but 5 demo ships that actually died in there, but it was absolutely worthwhile anyway. As it looks like that Red won't be able to break through here that quickly yet, especially with Teal helping him out still. On the other side of the map, it looks to me that we are kinda desperately trying to break through into currently Reto's base. So we do have how many arbalesters? 30. On the other hand, it's gonna be 30 but crossbowmen, and you can see right now the Imperial Age is literally only Simonz, and the next one is going to be Wertical. So the Bohemians, or I'm gonna be probably the same Bohemians and Czechs in kind of like a free fashion fairly, even if they are gonna be actually Bohemians in the game. But there we go, and we are going to be there for... That's actually something getting done, either basically some change or upgrade getting done. Because he was getting guard tower research, and that's when the confetti came out. That is such a weird actually thing. Such a weird mod though. No, nonetheless, that doesn't matter. But it's gonna be just gonna bothering me, I think, the whole time. So I'm probably gonna be complaining about it a few more times still. With some protection on the stone. Will be very much like, I think, in defensive castle here. Mr. Reto. But he's gonna be having quite a tough time to get that. With actually right now Simonz, 4 and 3 on the arbalests with the Malay. And he is going to be having, you can see, thumbring, ballistics, not everything, and also good economy. So this is actually looking a bit difficult currently for green with blue. So green is gonna be having some 15 horses, full upgrades onto the castle age. Purple is gonna be also in the castle age and having also full upgrades with the pole. It looks like it currently maybe the towers are gonna be one of the reasons he's gonna be holding, but he shouldn't be going so freely actually in that case. I mean, like, he's just gonna throw away all the horses to practically nothing, right? So that's a huge shame at this point for him. And he's gonna be having some replacements. About like 30 units still, so I guess maybe he just doesn't mind entirely too much, but still, this is something you shouldn't be doing too seriously. Can see a few more horses here in the middle. Defensive castle in the end did manage to get finished. No, and doesn't seem there's gonna be anything new in the Teal base, as probably the bigger battle is gonna be happening right next to Grey. It'll be also nice to be having a demo ship here for those dudes. No, that wouldn't be such a bad thing. And bad idea, as through the mids, apparently some kind of scouting party. Should be a bit more effective for Lord Turfux, whereas otherwise here to the top side, we do have a further castle from Krvemlik, trying to breach the defenses of MAYhem. Choosing the market, I mean, like, it's a logical place. There's a palisade in front of it still, but the market obviously is kind of like the biggest place, and as many squares as possible open, and therefore harder to wall back. From MAYhem's point of view, who's gonna be getting into Imperial Age in a moment, same as it's going to be also Christheco. No, and right now it was freshly Lord Turfux with the Malians, who is also getting Farimba immediately. For the increased attack on the cavalry, then it's going to be scouts from him. Cavaliers are getting upgraded as well, conscription. Yeah, well, he's gonna be considering the horses logically as his main unit so far, but maybe looking at, for example, those guys, maybe it's gonna be interesting to get the lead Huskarls out. So therefore the infantry with the pierce resistance, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea and bad plan for him currently. Now it's all the way to the south, just gonna still a bit of a small breach, and probably would be nice to be having even some stone walls ready for green, as currently we are just kind of like always having somebody breaching through into his base. Same as right now on the other side, Wertical is also having some constant problems with visits from Lord Turfux. But it doesn't seem like it's gonna be anything too extremely serious. What is a bit more serious is of course right now the breach through bottom, but it was kind of evident that it's going to happen based on the armies that we have seen attacking from each side, so blue is gonna be unfortunately even having a bit of a trouble to escape. They're already impatiently waiting for the villages. So the Reto is gonna be at 56 vills and he's escaping with about maybe 10, because he already does have a few units on the other side. Sad story. Straight drop into 41 here. And yeah, well, you can see right now about, I don't know, 5 villages he has managed to, actually 10, sorry. Really about 10 have managed to already break through into the other side, as we also continue with the fairly wild raiding by Lord Turfux. Seems to be like absolutely all over the place in all the pieces of the land. No, and apparently Wertical will be even switching into some Gulams. I wonder if it's gonna be just for some extra raiding, or probably. Because he doesn't have to be countering too many other archers yet, because they are mostly kinda dead. But maybe he just wants to be helping against this. Though Krvemlik with his Hussite wagons should be probably fine to deal with those. Looking at the 7 pierce resistance, right? Okay, castle is gonna be at least down, but this actually counterattack doesn't seem entirely too terrible. Krvemlik is gonna be at only 11 actually units, he doesn't have almost anything. Then his teammate that's gonna be Wertical at 45 camels and Gulams. MAYhem is at 68 actually archers, it's not all that he has. And his teammate is gonna be Teal, Lord Turfux at about 53. And if it's all actually knights, which it apparently will be, cavaliers, this actually could hurt the Czechs quite a lot. They don't seem to be really ready for what is coming for them here at all. But well, luckily on the other side, it's a bit of a different story, where Simonz together with Christheco are at this point basically trying to occupy Ombowombo, and from him it's gonna be of course easy switch to his teammate. As you can see, Reto 4 units, 6 units for Ombowombo, so he's basically gonna lose his base as well. 25 for Reto, 60 for Ombo. No, and while Turfux and MAYhem are still at 133, 34 and having big armies, they're just gonna get destroyed probably from behind here, it looks like, as already Teal has to be focusing on the defensive here, which means that theoretically to the top they might be the Czechs able to handle the pressure. Even though it would be nice to be having some Hofnitze against all the archers here, but you can see already lost like half of them anyway. Only 30 left from like almost 60. Then we are leaving this position, but well, they seem to be at least tearing down the castle, so therefore compromising Krvemlik's gameplay, because he's focusing on the wagons so far, and he doesn't have any preparation for anything else. Currently getting at least archers, it looks to me, or maybe skirmishes. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But he's getting upgrades for something from the archer range. No, and even some economy is actually coming up for him as well, but they seem to be holding pretty decently here. And yeah, well, Grey is gonna lose even the rest of the units here very soon. All the way to the south, we already are going to be breaching into the Teal base, even with some further raiders, cavaliers from currently the Polish player. Defensive castle is not gonna be entirely able to stop them in a kind of reasonable way anyway, as you do have still basically like pretty big army, 54 knights and scouts from Turfux, but you do have already Christheco at 61 cavaliers himself, And then we do have 80 archers from Simonz. There's obviously right now one part here. And that means that we still should be having some huge part elsewhere, which is kind of like hard to find even. Don't see it necessarily anywhere on the minimap. But if they're gonna be decently cooperating here, they should be able to hold off both, actually, both the flanks here from Turfuks without any kind of problem. Okay. Huh. Apparently not. Against right now he's trying to actually quite nicely encircle the opponent, getting even into bombards. This is gonna be one of the slightly better actually fights for Turfuks, but still should hurt quite significantly. Because there are just like way too many archers, and even further ones are coming. Similarly, you can see infinite trickle of further cavaliers right now from Christheco, so this is going to be a clear victory in the end, even though all the bombards are gonna be down. But does it really matter? At this point, just the bombards not even needed all that much. You can just gonna run into the enemy base, even with castles and TCs shooting. It does not entirely matter too much. To the top, Germany I is still having a bit of a hope here, as we are going in with some cannon galleons for Krvemlik, just to be helping with the siege against Turfuks. You can see currently Christheco is gonna be popped, so is going to be Simonz, and that's pretty much it. With Reto and Ombowombo being out of the game, they having barely any villages and of course no armies, so they're gonna be focusing on rebuilding right now behind the bases. You can see some new TCs already up here, doing their best and hoping that teammates are going to be able to protect them long enough, but frankly it seems highly unlikely now, and they are just basically fighting for maybe tiring their opponents, or just gonna maybe give themselves some confidence with the long game, as we are already at 53 minutes. That may be the second game, which will be therefore their home map would be going a bit better in the end. You can see the economies for the Czechs, still fairly solid, 105 to like 131. Exactly what they need, based on what kind of civilization they play. No, and the armies, you can say it now 100, but like 220 units for the Czechs, whereas for the opponents about 60 units currently. So you can definitely tell this is just like absolutely inevitable by now, and there's nothing serious that currently can be done by the Germans besides holding as long as possible. You can see the archers and even looks like a misclick, the few skirmishes here. Probably clicked a different hotkey in there. Yeah, well, combination with the hussars of course is going to be at this point resulting into the GG already being called, and that's going to be there for the first game going for Czech Republic B, even though it was quite a serious and quite a bit of a difficult actually fight for them. Well played by Germany, and to be honest, somewhat fitting what I was expecting based on the seedings and the ratings that actually are there in the seeding list. Because as I said, most of the players about 1500, just Krvemlik is about 1700. So let's put the 1-0 up at this point. And let's have a look at some statistics, I guess. You missed the Elite War Elephants from all long games. Yeah. Elite War Elephants reminds me of the longest game I have so far streamed in Age of Empires 2. It was in the A Olympics, the 2v2 on rivers, I think it was. It was either river or highland. The one that you have in the river through the middle. Thinking that rivers and highland are actually fairly similar in Age of Empires 2. And that was about like a 3-hour game. And there was a Persian, and they just kind of like switched between all kinds of civilizations. There are units in the civilizations, and of course the war elephants were there as well. No, and we are going to be there for, at this point, having on some further information maybe. No, we have just gonna mention right now the economies and armies, so just good, oh, sorry, good. Can't be speaking properly, just kind of overeaten it seems like for today. But yeah, well, we do have a few more games. Actually, right about now, not certain how it's going to be for the rest of the evening, because there's some kind of really cryptic message about an Age of Mythology match for 2030 GMT, but I don't think it's supposed to be today. I would be very surprised if it was today, but the day is not listed. So in about half an hour, 50 minutes, I'm gonna be having to look if whatever I will be needed there, which would be a bit of a sad story, but yeah, well. But again, I don't expect that it's actually meant for today, because it's supposed to be a team game, losers finals, And these are basically almost always playing on the weekend. So I'm thinking it's supposed to be probably Sunday. So hopefully we're gonna be having plenty games for today still, as there are also further matches, about 3 for today if I'm not mistaken. I have right now noted that 20 GMT, so about now there are 2 starting: Netherlands C versus Scotland A, and Hungary B versus France E. And then at 22 GMT there's going to be Argentina G versus UK E. So we're gonna be trying to stream something, not all of it, because the games are longer and yeah, well, don't plan on streaming until 2 AM, but some of the games you're gonna be choosing, I guess. Probably the Argentina G and UK E, maybe something from the previous ones if you manage to get there after this match. So the poll that's going to be there for Christheco, with having good eco upgrades in the end. Military wise also fine. For Simonz, he's going to be having also good upgrades in the end. Doesn't seem to be at this point suffering from any kind of mistakes on that front. Now for the Hindustani, having just like the first farm is definitely something that could be improved and should be improved. Krvemlik to the top, of course, everything as you'll be expecting. And for the opponents, do we see something? No, for example, Dravidian missing hand card and 2 Menso as well as an archesif, considering how long the game actually was already. Malian okay. Doesn't seem to be missing really anything in there. For green, okay, it's not green, this is green. He's going to be a bit... No, thinking that actually he got destroyed a bit later already, so I'm thinking that it would have been already nice to be having hand card from his point of view. Yeah, well, poor blue and his blue villages. And therefore that means you can also click into him here. And he's gonna be actually, on the other hand, look at the Japanese. What kind of good upgrades he has. And he was having much harder time in general. So yeah, I'm thinking that really Ombowombo needs to be focusing a bit more on the upgrades to be a bit more timely. But that's kind of like one of the, of course, things that the players, they are not experts, do not have entirely the proper timings in their mind yet. And therefore, they tend to be playing a bit more kind of like openly, without that much of a muscle memory where the upgrades should be coming and automatically in and whatnot. As you can see it now, Wertical going for the heavy plow now. Galeons for Krvemlik. And, whoa, infantry even, really. For the Alps, I guess. But let's therefore have a look into the post-game to see some further information. So what do you have? That's gonna be there for Lord Turfux with the highest military, maybe a bit surprisingly so. But Christheco is gonna be right next to him. Then the economy for Chris. That's gonna be carrying him on the scoreboard apparently. Wait, what? Huh. Same-ish score here, but you can see the differences. But that's gonna be there for tons of villages for Chris killed. Whereas Lord Turfux is gonna be having plenty cavaliers destroyed from Chris. And maybe the rate on the bombards, it was like 5 bombards, which is of course extremely expensive too. 101 for Simonz, yes, sure. Otherwise, fairly decent numbers for everybody. Nothing really too terrible. Obviously, Ombowombo a bit lower, but that's also due to progress of the game. With fairly serious Lingian by Chris, he was probably floating millions of resources. Haven't noticed entirely when I was switching through the players, but something that can be watched. Probably not gonna be returning back to the map, so you can go and look into past broadcast, because the UI would be probably taking ages to load, so I don't want to be dealing with that too much. Okay, so that's gonna be Reto versus Simonz. Let's compare the flanks. Should be obviously quite a bit higher, so 11, 17, 20, 26,000 more for Simonz. Expected when Reto is gonna be having his base destroyed. And at 54 minutes of the game time, then the other flank is gonna be maybe more interesting between MAYhem and Krvemlik. We'll be thinking that MAYhem could be higher. 5, 3, and 3, but like 6,000 more for MAYhem. That does not surprise me really. That does not, but still decent performance by Krvemlik. But I'm thinking actually that he maybe wasn't expecting such a strong opposition from the Germans. Not sure if maybe they were confused by the Germany I. That it's such a kind of like far into the alphabet. But based on the levels, they're not too far away from them. No, and Ombowombo, that's gonna be against Chris. That should be... Oh, let's probably compare the better performance by Turfux in there. So Chris and Turfux. It's gonna be 12,000, 15, and 4, so like 19,000 more for crazy. He really was having tons of resources. And then Ombowombo and Wertical. It's gonna be 9, 4, that's 11, 13. 9 and 4 is 13, 14, and 4, so it's gonna be 18,000 more for Wertical than Ombowombo. Yeah, the economy was definitely paying off a bit better for the Czechs. We have seen some kind of growing differences as the game progressed. But the early actually military wasn't really bad by the Germans at all. They played it pretty decently. I'm thinking that maybe they gave... Oh, maybe. I think they seriously gave a bit of a scare to the Czechs. Good upgrades. Kind of fairly actually low in general for everybody. But 30s with one type of army is somewhat okay. But just like interesting, they are like below the 30, not slightly above, as it usually tends to be. Few relics, just a few minutes, so just a bit of a afterthought. Nothing major. Few castles for Lord Turfux in there for defense, and GG.